Hello everyone. Sorry that I'm running a little bit late. I work for the federal government, so I got off a little bit late from work, and trying to get home in that traffic was a bit much, but I'm here. So let's get started here. I am Regal Cameron of RegalCameron.com. I am an author, a speaker, and a certified coach. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Regal T. Cameron. And you can also find me on Twitter at Regal's Gems. If you hear something tonight that you agree with, or you want to, you can actually type into the chat so that we can dialogue. Hi, Cheryl. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So tonight we're going to be talking about two things. We're going to be talking about, does daddy need to validate his daughter? Hi, Tilda. And we're also going to talk about healing the child within so the adult can live. So I'm going to tell, actually I'm going to read an excerpt out of my book called Divine Intervention, a Daily Devotional Inspired by the Holy Spirit. You can get it on Amazon, or you can go to my website at www.regalcameron.com. It is a daily devotional, and the first day of the devotional, it talks about beautiful woman. It's called Beautiful Woman. And basically it talks about the first time I was validated by a man and how it felt to be validated by that man. So I'm going to read the excerpt. It says, "It all began the first day I realized that I was beautiful. In junior high school, a young boy in my 4th or 5th period class told me that I was fine and pretty. This was the first day I felt validation from the opposite sex. The thought of a boy in junior high telling me I was fine and pretty gave me a rush of adrenaline through my body. It was awesome. Wow. The notion of me being pretty. My head started to swell because somebody told me I was cute. Then my best friend told me, don't let that boy blow your head up. Within 1 minute, my ego deflated because of the unworthiness I felt before being an ugly duckling. Suddenly, the rush came down. You see, I did not have a father to validate me or reassure me of my to reassure me that I was worthy of the words fine and pretty, or even beautiful." In that story, that day was a high and a low for me, because I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I was inside. I didn't really understand who I was outside. I was going through puberty. You know, when you're going through puberty, you're awkward. You know, you don't really feel pretty. And the fact that somebody thought I was pretty, I was just like, wow, that's awesome. That's really, really awesome. And that's something that a lot of us young girls who didn't have fathers in the home miss. Because if my dad would have told me, if my dad would have been around to tell me that I was beautiful, or been around to tell me, hey, don't let them little boys blow your head up. You're beautiful. I'm going to validate you. You have what it takes to do whatever it is that you want. He would have given me that self-confidence that I needed. Then it wouldn't have been nothing for Eric to tell me, you pretty, you fine. It wouldn't have blown my head up. It wouldn't have puffed me up. I would have been like, oh, my dad already told me that. I know I'm cute. But I didn't have that validation. A lot of times as young girls, we don't get that if your dad is not in the home. If your father is in the home, most of the time you do get that, because a lot of us, I wish I could have been a daddy's girl, but my dad wasn't there. I know I would have been a daddy's girl. I would have been up under him 24/7. But I want to talk about 3 things that a father does if he's in the home, and how he can validate a girl. And those things actually come up into our adulthood if we don't have them then. If we don't get it in our childhood, those feelings of being insufficient and not worthy will come up in your adulthood. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is a father's validation builds his daughter's self-esteem. I had low self-esteem. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know how to, I didn't really know how to talk to boys. I didn't know how to handle talking to boys. But if I would have had my father, he would have given me that self-esteem, that confidence that I needed in order for me to be able to talk to guys and have that self-esteem, have a positive self-esteem about myself, and knowing that I was, a good person, and that I didn't have to let somebody blow my head up. And that's what girls need at a very young age, especially when we start going through puberty, because if we don't, hey Shirlita, if we don't have that self-esteem that our fathers, that positive self-esteem, hey Jacqueline, that positive self-esteem that our fathers give us, then we can really have that ugly duckling feeling like I had when I was a little girl, not knowing who I was. The second thing is your self-identity. A father gives you self-identity, and if your father's not around, you don't have anyone. Hey Levon, you don't have anyone to validate your identity. You don't know who you are. You don't have anybody to tell you who you are, and that's something that is extremely important in a young girl's life. And for me, I didn't have that. I didn't have anybody to tell me, hey, you are somebody. You are going to be, you can do whatever you set your mind to. That self-identity, I didn't get that. And a lot of times, daughters get that from their fathers, because there's something about a father. There's something about him making you feel safe. There's something about him protecting you. There's something about that covering of a father, that if you don't get that covering or that validation from him, that have that father-daughter talk, that father-daughter relationship, you miss out on a lot of things. And you lose your self-identity, because a lot of times when we don't have that self-identity, we didn't have a father to tell us who we were and tell us what we were going to take from guys, what we not going to take from guys, what we should expect from guys, what they not supposed to do at all. That thing of knowing what your limitations are, knowing your boundaries, those things, that's something that your father teaches you. He teaches you boundaries so that you can tell that little boy, you ain't supposed to feel on my butt. What you trying to kiss me for? Get away from me. You don't have that. Whereas if you don't have a father like me, it was hard for me to really fight back with boys, because I didn't really have anybody to teach me how to fight back. So, and then the third thing, I'm going to go over all of the points again. The third thing is having self-confidence. A father gives his daughter self-confidence. And that is another part of validation. Because my mother, I didn't have a very good relationship with my mom, so I didn't really get a lot of things from her at all. And it's something about a father that gives you that self-confidence that you need to stand up to boys, to even stand up to bully girls in school who try to bully you. It's just something about that male energy that a father teaches his daughter how to protect herself, how to say no to boys, how to make sure that she's not bullied, and if she is bullied, he will teach her how to fight back. It's just something about that father covering, that if you have it, it's awesome. But if you don't, it leaves an empty space in your heart. It leaves an empty space in your mind, because there are a lot of things that you don't know how to do. You don't really know how to handle men when you get older. Like for me, I was looking for love in all the wrong places. When I went into the military, girl, it's men, and more men. Who find men on top of that, okay? So it's like, your father will teach you self-control. It will teach you not to spread yourself around to every man you think look good or you can catch. He helps you to become that godly woman. Even though my stepfather was not into the church, really churchy, but he knew what he wanted in my mother, because my mother, before they got divorced, she was very I don't want to say mother of the church because she wasn't, but she was a very godly woman. And knowing that that's the type of woman that my father wanted and got in my mother, that's the kind of person that I wanted to be for my husband when he does come in my life. But my stepfather left my life at 10 years old. So at 10, that was literally the beginning stages of me going into puberty and really having questions about boys and wanting to talk to my father. And I couldn't because he wasn't around. My stepdad wasn't around and my real father wasn't in my life either. So all the questions that I had about boys and all those things that young girls need in their foundational years, if you don't get that validation, that encouragement, that self-confidence and self-esteem, that self-identity in those younger years from your father telling you who you are, who you can become, that there's nothing that can stop you from becoming anything that you want to be in your life. If you don't get that in those years, you're really just walking into womanhood not being validated, not knowing your worth, not knowing who to let in your life, not knowing how to put up boundaries when the wrong man comes in your life, not knowing the things that you needed to know, not knowing that Joker gonna tell you whatever he can to get in your drawers. That was one of the biggest things that I missed from not having a father, because a father teaches you the game, and a good father does now. A good father will teach you the game of a man. And that falls all into the validation too, because there are some men that just want to get you and go, and then there's some men that want to wife you, and then there's some men that just want to party. So, and a father can teach his daughter that, and that helps with the foundation of growing her into who she wants to become and who he wants her to become. So it's really being validated by your father is really something that is extremely important for daughters, young girls, because if they don't get it in their childhood, it will show up in their adulthood, because you don't know how to carry yourself. It's almost like, for me, it was like I was extremely naive. I didn't really know very much about men, because I didn't have a father to teach me. So I was kind of on a big curve. I was on a big learning curve. And I went through a lot of hard knocks in life before I learned that because both of my fathers, my stepfather and my real father, weren't in my life, it wasn't until I got saved and God gave me that feeling of validation, that feeling of knowing who I was, building my self-esteem, and giving me the self-confidence that I needed in order for me to become the woman that I was supposed to be. So it's like, if you don't get it when you're young and you don't have a father in the home, when you get older, you just hope and pray that God is there to define you. God is there to give you who you are. God is there to tell you that you can do all things through Jesus Christ that strengthens you. Because I didn't know that before I got saved. I didn't know that I could do everything through God. All I had to do was depend on Him. All I had to do was just trust Him and lean on Him. But before I was saved, the only father I knew was my stepfather, who I grew up with. So you really, really have to know who you are in Christ. And God gives you that to be validated. Because as I grew in Christ, God showed me more of Him, and I learned more of me. And the more I knew of Him, the more He validated me, the more He loved me, the more He gave me everything that I needed in order for me to become the woman He wanted me to be. And I thank God for that, because there was a time that I didn't like myself. There was a time that I was very angry. There was a time that I was mad at the world. But God took all of that, and when he validated me and said, "You're okay. There's nothing wrong with you. You're beautiful." God did it for me. And literally, a father is supposed to do what God did for me, for His daughter growing up in every stage of her life, whether she's a baby and He's holding her in His arms, or if she's like 5 years old and He's outside playing with His daughter, or if she's going into her preteens. He's supposed to be there to give her those things that God gave me, the self-confidence and the self-identity. and the self-esteem. A father is supposed to give you those things. And if you don't have a father there, I pray that God will give you those things for you to become the woman that he wants you to be. So as far as, does daddy need to validate his daughter? Yes, he does. He needs to validate her in every stage of her life. When she's a baby, when she's an adolescent, when she's going through puberty in her teen years and becoming a young woman. She needs to be validated, because a father teaches a daughter how a man is supposed to treat you. And if she does not have that, a lot of times we get in bad relationships because we just don't know. We just don't know. And and when you don't know, that's a strike against you. Because you're learning on a curve. Like I learned on a curve. Now I know who I am because God validated me. And there's nothing that anybody could tell me or try to tell me that I'm not who God says I am. Hello, Teresa. How are you? And there's nothing, no one could ever tell me that I'm not pretty, that I'm not smart, that I can do all things, that I can become whatever it is that I desire to become, because God has given me that validation that I should have gotten from my father. Now, if I would have gotten the validation that I needed from my father, once I got saved, it would have reinforced everything that should have come from my dad. But thank God for Jesus, because he helped me find out who I was. He helped me. He validated me, and he let me know that you're okay. And that's what a lot of us need. We need that validation of knowing that we're okay, that there's nothing wrong with us, that we're normal, that we're just learning on a curve. But it's okay, because once we learn, once we know, we know. The second thing that I wanted to talk about tonight is healing the child within so the adult can live. When I came up with that phrase, it was about 2 years ago, and I was speaking with my business coach, Luria Sample, and we were talking about my business and how I was going to go forth with what I wanted to do and talk to my tribe about, and just pinpoint what it is of where my heart is. And as we were talking, she was like, Regal, don't worry, God will give it to you, to give you the right words to put it together of everything that you do. And then there was one night she was on a Periscope, and we were talking on the chat and everything, and everybody was talking in the chat, and the conversation was really, really good. And I had said to her, Luria, it's heal the child within so the adult can live, because that's, and the discussion was talking about how when we're hurting as a child and how that thing kind of hangs on to you when you become an adult. And if you don't go back and resolve that thing, it's always there. So, and when I put that in the chat, she was like, Regal, that's it. That's what God's telling you to do. That's it. So I was like, oh, wow, that was awesome. So that was really, really an awesome experience because it came so organically. And healing the child within so the adult can live means that when you have those issues that you have not addressed when you were younger, those things will follow you throughout your life until you address them. Like for me, I did not have a good relationship with my mom. And I didn't realize it until I was probably in my late 20s, early 30s. And when I realized it, it was because I was reading my poems, and normally I would just write. I didn't really read. I would read over them, but I wouldn't really read, like be in depth reading them. And I just happened to just kind of take the time to read, and I realized that I was angry. Hi, Melinda. I realized that I was an angry person, and that I was still mad at my mom for things she had said to me. And that by this time, my mother had passed away. She passed away when I was 23 years old. So there were a lot of unresolved things that I didn't get a chance to go back and ask my mom, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Why did you say this? Why did you say, what did I do for you to treat me this way? So I had a lot of unresolved, feelings. And they were making me an angry person. And then I had hurt from men and from things that happened to me in my young adult life. And I just was extremely angry. I was angry at men. I was so angry at men to the point to where there was probably about a 3 or 4 year period I wouldn't even let men speak to me. If I even thought they was going to open up their mouth to say hello, I was like, oops, don't say nothing. Keep it moving. Just keep it moving. You ain't even got to talk to me because I'm not going to talk to you. I literally would do that. And and I was in junior college at that time, and the guys were like, she crazy, man. She crazy. No, I was hurt. I was hurt. I literally did not allow men to speak to me. If they even looked like they was about to say something to me, I'd be like, keep it moving. I don't want to talk to you. Keep it moving. And they would just look at me like I was crazy. And I would even hear them say, man, she crazy. I wasn't crazy. I was hurt. I was devastated by men. Because after you give your heart so many times and they just trample on it, you get that. I hated men. I did for years. I didn't let them talk to me at all. And when I realized that I had become this angry black woman, and I decided then I need to go back and research this thing and try to figure out why I'm so angry and why I'm so negative. And the crazy thing is at the time that I found out that I was angry and a negative person, I actually thought I was a positive person. And it's crazy how you can trick yourself into thinking that you're one thing when you're actually something else. So as I started to see me for real for the first time, I realized that I was still angry at my mom. I realized I was still angry at this boyfriend. I was still angry at that boyfriend. I was angry at what so-and-so did to me. I was angry at my mother not believing me when I told her her boyfriend molested me. I was angry that it went on for a whole year until she caught him. I was angry that she never came back and said, baby, I'm sorry. I should have believed you. I was angry. I was angry. And when I realized that all of that stuff from my childhood was affecting me in my adulthood, and I realized then I had to start to forgive. And I realized that all of my childhood hurts were hindering my adulthood, were hindering me getting in new relationships, hindering me getting in a loving relationship. And I had to come back and say, wait a minute, I need to heal some stuff from when I was a kid. I need to heal that thing. I need to let it go. I need to forgive and some things fell straight off. Once I realized I needed to forgive, when I forgave my mom, a lot of stuff just fell off of me. I felt so much lighter. When I forgave the men that hurt me, I felt so much lighter. I could literally feel stuff drop off of me. And realizing that in order to heal the child within so the adult can live, that it all starts with forgiveness, that was an awesome thing to figure out on my own. Nobody told me. Nobody showed me that this is what's wrong with you. You know, you need to fix this right here. This right here. This thing right here. This one, you angry. 2, you mad at men. 3, you need to forgive your mama. 4, you need to forgive your brother. You need to forgive all these people in order for you to live the right life, to live a bright life, to live a life that's stress-free from hurt and pain. And once I did that, I was like, wow. Literally, my countenance changed. Literally, my countenance changed. The next morning, the day after I did this forgiveness and just trying to make sure that I was literally going back in my head, who else do I need to forgive? Who else do I need to forgive? What else do I need to do so that I can become a better person? And once I went through names and people and things that I had been through, the next morning when I woke up and I looked at myself in the mirror, I literally was lighter. My countenance had changed. I mean, I didn't look heavy or drab or sad or mad. I mean, it was like a brightness that came over me. And I realized that, wow, letting go all of that stuff from my childhood really did affect me as an adult. So if there's anything in your life, whether if it's something that happened to you when you were 5 or 2, or if it happened to you when you were in high school, or even your young adult years, your early 20s, whatever happened to you to make you angry, go back and visit that stuff. Go back and say, okay, go back to the origin of that thing, because you've got to get to a point of letting it go and forgiving, so that you could live the full life that you're supposed to live in your adulthood. And it's crucial, because a lot of people think, well, oh, that happened back then, I ain't got to worry about it, it's done, it's over with, I ain't even got to deal with it no more, I ain't gonna even address it. No, you have to address it, because if you don't address it, it's always going to be there lingering behind you, nipping at you, and you don't want that. You want to just let it go and move forward. And and what I would do from that point on is, when I found something that I did not forgive, or found somebody that I did not forgive, every morning in the mirror, I would say, I forgive Susie for doing blah, blah, blah. I forgive Fred for doing blah, blah, blah. And I would say it every morning until I didn't feel that thing that I felt towards them, that anger, that pain, that hurt. I would continue to do that thing until I didn't hear it or feel it anymore in my spirit. And at the moment that I didn't feel it anymore, I was done. I let it go. Because sometimes you have to work that thing out of you. Sometimes it doesn't come quickly. Sometimes depending on the hurt may have been a lot harder to let go because of whatever it was in the situation that happened. So that's the exercise it's a forgiveness exercise that I use when it's something that is hard for me to let go. I will keep saying that thing. I will keep saying, I forgive, I forgive, I forgive. And then eventually I'll get to that point to where I let it go and I've forgiven. So that's an exercise that I use for myself. I still use it today. So that's something that you would like to take on, by all means take on, because it will help you work through that hurt and that pain. So, and it will actually change your life, because it changed mine. It really made me a better person. It made me look at life differently. It made me look at life more positive than the way that I looked at it beforehand. Instead of looking at things through a negative eye, I would see things through a positive eye. And that makes a world of difference when you see things through a positive eye. Well, ladies, thank you for coming on and listening. And what I talked about today was, does daddy need to validate his daughter? I gave 3 points. A daddy needs to give his daughter self-esteem, because that's something that should not come from another man. He should also give her self-identity, tell her who she is, tell her stock, who she's from, who is in her lineage, so she knows who she is, and nobody can tell her once she gets out there in the world. Nobody can tell her who she is, because her father has told her who she is. And then also giving her that self-confidence that she needs from her father. So those 3 things are 3 things that a father needs to do to validate his daughter, so she know who she is, and no one else can tell her and make her feel that she's not. And then I also talked about healing the child within so the adult can live, meaning that you have to go back to your childhood, dig up that thing that you have not forgiven, dig that thing up, deal with those emotions, deal with that hurt, deal with that pain, and then let it go. Because if you don't, it still affects you in your adulthood. It affects your relationships. It affects how you do. It can even affect how you do business and who you do business with. And it also can draw the wrong people to you if you have not forgiven. So you want to, heal that thing, let it go, let it go. And if it's hard for you to let it go, then you can use the exercise that I did in order for me to really just get over the hurt and pain, which is I would sit in the mirror and I would say, I forgive Susie, I forgive Fred. And I would say it until I didn't feel that thing anymore in my heart, that pain in my heart, that anger in my heart. And once that was gone, then I knew I had forgiven for real. So I hope you guys enjoy my Facebook Live tonight. I am Regal Cameron. I'm an author, a speaker, and a certified life coach. You can find my book, Divine Intervention, which I read from tonight, in reference to validation, about the first time I was validated. It's called, the very first chapter is Beautiful Woman, Day 1. You can find that on Amazon.com, or you can go to www.regalcameron.com and find it on my website. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Regal T. Cameron, and you can find me on Twitter at Regal's Gems. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and you have a great evening. Bye.